Hey folks, it's time for TWiP Pro Photo Critique number 169, Inspirational.
This is TWiP.
Hey, welcome back to this week's TWiP Pro Photo Critique. I am your host, Frederick Van Johnson. I'm sitting here with my partner in crime, Mr. Troy Miller, who's also sitting here, ready to talk about this week's crop of images. Troy, the topic that you picked for this week was inspirational or inspiration. Are you inspired by this week's crop of images?
I am always inspired by the TWiP community. There's so many good humans and so many good images. So yeah, every time I look at an image, I'm like, ooh, I want to take that, or I want to do something like that. So
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So good job, folks, for throwing your images in here. Something different for folks that are inside the TWiP Pro community. And if you're not a member of the Founders Club in the TWiP Pro community, there's a link in the description for this video and also on the blog post where this video is embedded that will take you over to become a member. So we welcome you guys to come in if you would like to become a member of the TWiP Pro Founders Club community. But that said, if you are a member, you will get a post or an email this week that will discuss some changes that Troy and I have been toying around with to reinvigorate and make the photo critiques more substantive and more useful for you guys. I think you'll enjoy what we're doing, and it'll make them more more valuable for you in terms of getting good feedback from a variety of sources on your images. Right, Troy?
Right. Absolutely.
Yep. Cool. All right. So let's dive in. You ready?
Growing.
Yeah,
I'm ready.
It's all about growth. All right, let's go ahead and share my screen here. Here we are inside the Founders Club photo critique area. Jim Peters is the first one up. He says, I sit in my living room every morning, coffee in hand, enjoying the quiet. It's often, let's see, how much you rate, Jim? Bring it up. Okay. Come on, mighty.
Nice.
Often it's the random collection of books that surround me or a single volume that may inspire me. Sometimes it's just the morning light streaming in, and often, especially on Mondays, inspiration comes from your posts for this critique. Awesome. Yay. Thank you.
Nice.
All right. And here's our image. The bookshelf.
Yeah, I love this. I got to tell you, this is, whenever I go anywhere and I see a rack of books, I'm immediately drawn, because they tell so many stories. Like, just the books themselves, I realize that, but like what books people have in their space, I always think is very cool. So I've already zoomed up in this image and crawled around it a lot. So I love we got some specific Winston Churchill over here. We've got some Encyclopedia Britannica at the bottom. We've got some like a hymn book and some other stuff, up at the top. Introduction to Mathematical Philosophy. I like, and then there's a Christmas snow globe.
Everything has a memory in it too up there.
It does. And then there's like these two little, there's like three ceramic pieces on the second shelf, like the handprint. And then there's those two other things that I'm thinking, maybe grandkids or somebody made, like, I don't know. And then the two angels that are kind of offset. Like, just for me, everything about this is it's just this wonderful little framework of storytelling. And I think it's something that everybody can relate to.
I agree. And it fits squarely into the inspiration topic, because this reminds me of when I was growing up. We had a bookshelf similar to this, and I think I mentioned it before on these critiques, but we had the Encyclopedia Britannicas up there, just all of the volumes, and all the extras and all that stuff are up there. And I remember I just randomly go up there and grab one and sit down and dig in and just start looking at stuff. And it was always an adventure and always inspirational. I always came away knowing something that I didn't know before I sat down. And now, of course, we have Google, so who needs that stuff, right?
I agree. No, I totally agree. I am still drawn to books. I think that it's just, it's just wonderful to open them up and kind of sit there and just peruse knowledge. I really like the lighting that's in this image. So I just really kind of want to speak to that, is that
Sure.
light that's kind of scraping in from what feels like some blinds over to the right. I almost wish that was stronger. I kind of feel like I wish there were more of those streaks. But I
Yeah.
like the fact that it feels like it's in a space as opposed to just a very sterile capture, And I like the crop. I like it's nice and clean.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it. Yeah. And the books down at the bottom definitely have stories to tell, right?
Yeah, and it's not perfect. I mean, like, there's a book at the top leaning a little to the right. There's a book in the middle that's leaning against the hand a little bit. It creates a little tension for me, like, ooh, is it going to push that thing over,
Yep.
But that's what makes it organic and feel real life. Like, if I went to Jim's house, I'm sure I would see that, right? And it would feel like it belongs in somebody's home as opposed to like a museum.
That's right. Hey, here's a question for you. Did you manage to find Darth Vader's TIE fighter on the shelf?
Darth Vader's TIE fighter?
Yes. It is in there. Can you find it?
No, I found the T. I found the T block.
Look at Winston Churchill's book.
Winston Churchill's book. Oh. Okay, not a literal TIE fighter. Okay, I'm looking for like a literal.
No. It's the first thing I saw when I saw that. Either Highway 101 or a TIE fighter.
Oh my gosh. And folks, this is how Frederick's brain works.
It is Willy Wonka up in there, I'm telling you. All right. Let's get out of that. Thank you, Jim, for that. That was awesome. All right, let's move on to the next photo in this week's crop. This next one up is from Michael Deray. He says, my only inspiration for photography are people. So I try to understand their story through a photo. Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, this is great. I dig this. I love kids are great. Like, their expressions are just so honest, and they're just happy wherever they are, kind of thing. Sitting in the garage or the shed or wherever this is. They're just kind of chilling. I think the black and white works really well because there's probably a bunch of different tones, going on in there. The trash cans could be green or blue or whatever. I would suggest, cropping in tighter just on the kids. The foreground, the lower right-hand corner, the whatever that is on the left, the paint machine or a pressure washer or something like that. Those things are a little bit more distracting. And I would just suggest that when you're taking these photos, that you really kind of think about the final image. And in this case, get more down to the kid's eye level instead of shooting from an adult's eye level, kneel down if you can and lean slightly to the right. And then crop them. Like, if you can't get closer, that's fine. Just crop, but we don't need all the other stuff around them as much. We still get the sense of where they are if you crop it in a little tighter.
Yeah. And I love the square crop of this. My eye goes directly. Obviously, we're going to go to the faces in the scene first, right? So my eye goes directly to the kids. I 100% agree with you. A lower perspective for kids and animals and things like that puts you more on their level and makes it a little bit more personal. I may have darkened that bottom edge, the bottom. I guess maybe the entire, like, this area. We don't really need to see this much highlight because it's the brights in this area and down here are taking away, it's kind of drawing me away from the faces. So maybe subdue that a little bit so that I'm drawn more into the faces and less distracted by this foreground stuff. Right. Other than that, that's it. I love the tension that this shot gives me as a dad. Seeing a little girl next to machinery like that makes me nervous. Like, get out of there! Go play in the yard. Yeah.
But they're just chilling, they're just kids. Like, they're just kicking back. Like, maybe they're just having a snack. There's a little bowl in the back, sitting on that chair, or that plate or whatever. Like, I love all of that. we just need to move in to remove some of the distractions that we don't need, which is the lower left corner and the lower right hand corner. And then of course, when you're shooting, think about that. If something's in your way, you just move.
And in post, right? And in post. So if there's some reason why those elements are part of the story, then you can address that in post a little bit by subduing them. But yeah,
correct. Yeah, it's a
cool
two-step process. Yeah. Yep. Like it.
Cool. All right, moving right along. That was Michael Deray. Michael Deray, I still can't figure out how to make this E on the keyboard in your name. I still need to copy and paste it every time.
You can just hold the E down. You just hold the E down when you're typing. Just hold it down, and then a window pops up, and you can just pick whatever E you want.
In Mac OS, really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll try it.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right. Next up is Eric. Nora's. Thank you. I'm a lifelong learner. So.
Right.
Norazanotous is up next. He says, different views. Pilgrims circling Jokhang Temple in Lhasa, Tibet. My inspiration is experiencing different cultures, foods, architecture, landscapes, and wildlife through travel.
Nice. I dig it. This is so much fun. This is so great. I love the fact that in the middle set of sunglasses, I can see Nora in there taking the photo. I mean, she's in lots of them, but like that one you can actually see. And I think that's super fun. It's like a little Easter egg in the shot.
I wonder if Nora is the literal interpretation that because of the diversity of these sunglasses and your reflection in them, it's different ways of seeing all these different areas. Right. So your literal reflection of different perspectives on the areas that you've traveled to, because that's the way I see it, especially if the reflection of yourself, which I'm going to assume is intentional. If the reflection of yourself in these glasses is intentional, then it's part of the overall shot and not just there was a reflective surface and I was intending to make a shot of sunglasses, but somehow I got captured. But because you're in there, I'm assuming that that's part of it. And looking at the world through different glasses in different areas is kind of brilliant. That's kind of cool.
Right. Oh yeah. There's a lot of symbolism here. I mean, immediately I could see an image like this, titled diversity or perspective or so many things, or inspiration, which I think is just wonderful. I love the crop. I love how it's nice and tight. My only critique is I wish that all the glasses on the bottom were in the frame and they weren't cut off. And the top left hand corner, like maybe that just wasn't possible. So, but I don't know where the original is. If the original has that space, I would try a little pixel pushing and maybe some Photoshop magic to try and include everything within the frame so it feels very intentional. But that's minor, to be honest. That's minor. I think this is a really wonderful image, and this is something that I could see printed big and hanging. Everybody can relate to this.
Yeah, I like it. Very cool.
I don't see a pair of sunglasses in there though that I would like. I don't know that there's a pair in there for me.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I was thinking that. I think if I had to, if this was my selection, I needed to pick up some sunglasses, I would probably go with these at the top right here.
Oh, I was gonna say the third one's down from there, with the yellow. Those they kind of look like the Wayfarer type. I could probably get away with that.
Yeah, you could. Or
Isn't
these,
that funny?
These at the top middle are more like Joe Biden glasses or something.
Yeah,
I think I'm more of this guy though. Cool,
but really great image, Nora. Really great vision with that. That's really wonderful.
Yep, very nice. All right, thank you, Nora. Moving right along, Eric Pronsky's up next, and Eric says, wait for it, Mendocino Coast. I always find inspiration during a morning walk on the beach or coastline listening to the water. I wish I could get to do it more often, but I guess that's why it's inspirational when I have the opportunity. 10-stop ND filter for a 15-second exposure to give the water a calm and peaceful look. Image made from a recent California trip. Awesome. Yeah, Eric's playing with that long exposure stuff. He mentioned that at the table critique we did.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's wonderful. Yeah, it's really great. I really miss the smooth reflections app. You and I talked a little bit off camera about, why our cameras don't have more apps like our phones have.
Mm-hmm.
And I tend to find, like when I go to places like this, I'll shoot a live photo with my phone, and then I'll do the long exposure effect on it, and I call it a day.
Yeah.
Because it's
Right.
so amazing. Because I tend to be a little bit lazy when I'm out shooting if I want to go grab an ND filter and stuff.
But
But this
that
is
said, though, I mean, yeah, one way, or the only way to do it was tripod, ND filter, long exposure, and then take that file and then tweak it, make it look beautiful, and share it. Now, a different way to do it is, like you said, with live photos in your phone and stack all the exposures and blur, right? And it will blur the moving objects in there. Is one better than the other? Do you have more control? I guess you have more control if you shoot it traditionally with a tripod and all that. Or would you have shot it at all with all that overhead necessary when you had your phone in your back pocket and the opportunity presented itself and you wanted long exposure, you knocked it out real quick. So
yeah, I wouldn't have shot it at all. That's me. I wouldn't have shot it. So, but speaking to Eric's image, I really enjoy this. I think this is really wonderful. I'm leaning towards a couple things. I'm thinking this would be stronger in black and white. That was probably predictable.
I was waiting for it.
Yeah, I know. I think because of the shapes and the highlights in the water, I think that it would be really strong in black and white. Also, I think the color, the toning, or not the toning, the highlight is sort of inverted in this image where I would place the light. So the background is brighter than the foreground, and I would spend some time doing some dodging and burning, some linear gradients and things like that to bring the foreground slightly brighter than the background.
Mm-hmm.
So the rocks above the arch, from their back, I think it should get slightly darker, pull some of the contrast out, and then coming forward in the water, bring the highlights up in the water, a little more saturation in the water if you're going to keep it color, a little darker if you're going to go black and white. And that'll really draw you into what I think is the key to this image, or the focal point is that archway. Or, I was going to say tunnel. It's not a tunnel. It's the arch.
It's an arch, yeah. If that was accessible, I don't know if that arch is accessible during low tide or whatever, but if it is, it would be interesting. Like when I look at a shot like this, my brain goes to, because I'm so into our community, I go to, I wonder what Troy would do here. Troy put a bride in that archway. That's what he would do. Or a fire, or some sort of explosion. What would Craig Colvin or Craig Stampley do? Yeah. You know what they would do? It would be a woman in there, pose scantily or something. Yeah.
And that's interesting. That would be an interesting experiment to see, like, where you would put a subject in this scene if you had the chance. Because immediately my thought was I would love to have a bride up on the little plateau up to the top left of the arch. And
over here.
Yeah, so she would be the main subject, Hook, and then the arch would be sort of the complementary secondary element to that, as opposed to taking the main element and just adding another piece to it. It's already cool by itself.
Yes, yeah, you're right. That's cool. Yep, absolutely. See, that's why you get paid the big bucks,
Yeah. When I work. Yeah, when I have weddings.
Yeah, exactly. Cool.
Yeah, but I like great image, Eric. I would play with the lighting in this image. Do some dodging and burning. Think about what you're attracted to in this image, and bring your attention there, and darken and mute the areas that are less important. I love the skyline. I like the little lighthouse that's back there. I wouldn't get rid of any of that. I wouldn't crop it any different. I would just do some dodging and burning and move the tones around.
That's so interesting. I totally had it pegged that you were going to say black and white, but I also had it pegged that you were going to say crop down and make that arch the hero of the shot, and use the coastline and the horizon and all that.
I mean, that crop is in there, but to be completely honest, I like the fact that the lighthouse is in there. I think it's really cool that it's another hook in the image I wish it wasn't straight above the arch, though. I wish it was offset, because you usually don't want to stack your objects, but you can't really change that in this shot. So
Yeah, yeah. Cool shot. More long exposures, Eric Pronsky. Love them.
more. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. I call that time travel, manipulating space and time with your camera.
It is. Yeah, it's cool.
All right. Next up is Karen Sweeney. Karen, we miss you at our mixers.
Yeah.
Karen says, for the inspiration critique, one of the things I love about photography is visiting the same spot under different conditions. Sometimes I use those conditions or to present a challenge to be overcome. This is taken at a less than ideal time of day, but with filters and post-processing, the hope is to produce an image that works. This is a blend of 2 different exposures, both taken with a 10-stop ND filter, Pollock Weir.
Yeah,
let's bring this guy up. Here we go. Oh, yeah. All right.
Yeah,
what say you, Troy Miller?
Well, I'm having a little bit of a... First of all, I love the mood. But I'm having a little struggle with where I want to look in the image and what I find attractive in the image to me. And I think for me, there's too much of it's in focus. There's not enough foreground, middle ground, background. There's not enough depth. I appreciate the fact that we have this beautiful sky and it feels a little HDR-ish. Like I have a sense that sky isn't natural in the sense that it wasn't dropped in, but maybe it was a combination or something like that.
It was helped a little.
Yeah, which is fine, which is totally fine. There is a little black mark along the top edge, by the way, right above the tree. I don't know what that is, but it's actually in the image.
I see that. Yeah, right there.
Yeah. So with that said, I mean, I love the way it's presented. I would play with cropping it much more horizontal and actually removing the sky, because I think the hero is the water cascading down whatever that little dam or dike or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. But what I would really focus on and what I saw right away was all the way to the right-hand side. You've got that grass coming in. You've got the water falling behind it. To me, that's what I would have shot. Just
this area
that.
right over here.
Yeah, because you got the foreground of the grass. You've got the darkness. So you got light, dark, and light. And then you've got foreground, middle ground, background. Yeah, not an easy subject to photograph. Yeah. There's a lot to challenge you.
Yeah, excuse me. I think, a shot like this, again, we don't know what access Karen had in here, but yeah, we talk about what's the hero, what's the subject of this shot. In this one, I'm guessing this guy, and I should have to guess, right? But I'm guessing this water feature here is the hero, but I'm distracted by these foreground elements a little bit. And then there's this building, and then we have all the high frequency of the trees, and then the clouds. I think to make a shot like this, in my opinion, more interesting would be if you could get closer to this water feature, do the long exposure, but accentuate the length of this using your perspective on it. Like go vanishing point, like get closer to it on this side, so the water is falling down and this whole thing is extending into the background, into a vanishing point, but you have this water feature in the foreground and then the clear water, and then maybe this building back here becomes the background of the whole thing somehow. This a different perspective. And then the whole overarching thing is choose who's the subject. Like I said, this water feature in that example would be the subject. But if this building is interesting, maybe that's the subject, and you punch in and maybe this area on this side showing the building with the water feature. And it's interesting that there's a building right up against this water feature. Maybe that's what you're trying to show. So,
yeah. And as I'm looking at this image, there's a lot of images in it. Together, I think that it's a little bit complicated. It's busy. Yeah. And The building is amazing with a little water feature. On the right, the grass, the water feature is amazing. The dead center, just the layered of those blocks by itself. I mean, just that alone is a cool feature.
Yep. Yep.
Certainly one of the kind of spots where, 10 photographers would stand there and you get 10 different images.
Yeah, so. For sure. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Yeah, it's interesting. Like you and I were talking. Let me put the camera on us for a second. You and I were talking before we started recording about just the art of photography and how with the ubiquity of cell phones and these inexpensive devices, how so much is possible, and there's kind of been a democratization of the tools, and now I feel like there's a resurgence coming back of where skills and storytelling and all that stuff is becoming even more important. Kind of like, remember The Incredibles? Right, the first Incredibles, right. That supervillain. I always say this: that supervillain, his whole evil plan was to give everyone on the planet superpowers, so that no one would have superpowers. Right. Right. And it's kind of like that in photography with phones and what they can do now. Everyone has the capability to create amazing things. So how do you differentiate yourself? I think it's you go back to lighting, composition, storytelling, and all those cool things. Kind of like, remember back in the desktop publishing revolution when the printers showed up that could print multiple fonts on a page and people were doing it. So now you didn't have to hire a graphic designer in order to design your flyer. You could just do it yourself. And a bunch of garbage came after that. And then after that, there were people that knew how to apply, design, and use the tools, started creating amazing things. Right. So maybe we're seeing that again.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I agree.
So cool. All right. Karen Sweeney, thank you. Stuff is so much fun. That's why photography is fun, because it's always morphing, right? There's always something new to shoot, always some new technique, always some zeitgeist going on in the industry. Yeah. Next one is from Raphael Timber Geek Swift. He says, corny as it may sound, what inspires me is finding the light. A nearly straight out of camera target of opportunity acquired this summer with my 11-year-old Nikon D7000. Okay, let's take a look.
Nice.
Interesting.
Nice.
So I'm curious to hear what you say about this as a portrait photographer. The photographing of statues and things like this. Like, where do you fall on that? Because I'll put a box around it. I look at it as like, okay, great. This is clearly a cool shot, but I don't know. So it's a cool shot, and it's it's technically put together correctly, but how do you interpret it? And I think where I'm going is because it's someone else's artwork that you are now photographing again and reinterpreting. How do you reinterpret it and tell your story from the story that artist was attempting to tell? Not to take away from the photograph or doing this type of photography, but is it I don't know. I was excited to talk to you about this one, because is it possible to extract your vision of someone else's artwork like this?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's the whole thing about art, is that, I would look at a piece like this, and this looks like some type of a ballerina type of pose. But because I'm not really interested in the dancing, I'm really going to focus more on like body features, like maybe the strength of the leg or the arm or the neck, the clavicle, which the sculptor clearly was intentional about that clavicle and the neck muscles and things. So like I'm very focused on that from the human aspect. So I may even push in and really identify some of those things within the piece of art that I like even more. So kind of shining a light on that. Somebody like Stephen Scharf, who used to do ballet, he may photograph this completely different. Because of how he sees it and his angle and his perspective, and things that he sees that's important in this particular pose. and you may not see either one of those things. So you may photograph something completely different. Aside from that, Raphael makes a very good point that he says, it might be what is his exact words? I want to quote him correctly. It may be corny, as it may sound, that light inspires him, but dude, that's all photography is light. When I get to a location that I'm going to photograph, I don't walk around and say, well, that's the most beautiful tree I've ever seen, I'm going to go photograph that. I walk around and go, what's the light telling me to photograph today? Like where can I put a subject, or how's the light going to play? And so it's not corny at all. I think, it's amazing. I was chasing the moon last night, and I had a perfect spot. I had my app set up. I was waiting for the moon to come up, and I wanted light on the mountain, and the light on the mountain left before the moon came up. So no shot. So yeah, it's about light.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what light means. Sorry to interrupt, but that's what photography means, right? The word photography is a concatenation of graphy and photo. Photo means light, graphy. Word? Yeah.
Concatenation?
Yeah. It means to put two words together, son. No, it's called, there's this thing floating around called English, it's a fad. I don't know. Concatenation means to put two things together, right? So to concatenate words, you put two words together. Photography is a concatenation of the words photo and graphy. Photo means light. Is
Jello a concatenation?
Spicy Jello, no, it's not. No. Electromechanical. That is a concatenation.
Okay. All right.
See, you make me go into this nerd like Urkel mode. I try to avoid it, but you pull me in.
It doesn't work. No, I love that. I want to remember that. I wrote that down already. I'm telling serious. I love it.
Concatenation. Yeah. That's a word. Go ahead.
Oh, so to just to speak a little bit more to the image is, Raphael, so when you look at an image like this, one, look at the light, walk around, look at the light, that's fantastic. And then look at what draws your attention in. One of the things I would say about this particular image is your background. The background is more distracting than it is helpful. So I would look at your background and think of how you can move, how you can change your perspective. Do you kneel down? Do you hold the camera up really high and try to point it? Like, what can you do to make that background cleaner and simpler? And then add that to your light and what is attracting you, and then remove distractions. Like her right arm, right? The statue's right arm is really bright. So you got to think, ooh, I either got to burn that down or I got to hide it somehow, right? And move around. So just watch the background.
Yeah. I'm surprised that because we know, and everyone in the community, I think, knows that one of your pet peeves is amputation. And this one is, this one's amputating 3 limbs here. Like, no comments on the amputation?
Well, I did suggest that you would move in, or yeah. But see this, but this is really tough because it's all about what is inspiring to Raphael. So, in retrospect to the amputations, yeah, I mean, I would probably burn those down. I'm not a fan of that. I would work really hard to not do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would move in closer, but as somebody who photographs humans a lot, I would never photograph somebody like that, where they're in a pose and I can't see their leg and their arm. Like, that pose is got a purpose. Or move in so close,
so it's a portrait.
That, yeah, 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 exactly.
Cool. Awesome. All right.
I was avoiding all the Troy cliches with that one. I was trying not to get them.
You can't avoid it, man. It's it is you. Come on. And I hope you did write down the word concatenation, because you got to look at it.
I did. Yes, it's right here. It's on my notepad. I wrote it with my fountain pen. I don't know how to spell it, but I can figure it out.
Google can help you out with that. All right, next shot up is from Armando Brook. Welcome back, Armando. We haven't heard from you in a while. Armando says, for this week's critique, for me, what inspires me the most is being able to go out to the streets and take photos of people. Yep. Let's take a look.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Look at that. I love the contrast of this shot. It just pops right out. Right.
Yeah. This is one of those kind of shots that I know from Armando that if there's colors in there, they're bright and they're colorful and they're powerful. And I just wonder if there's colors in that background that would help create some depth and separation, or are they distracting? Armando, I appreciate the black and white because I think it's super strong, but I'm just wondering what that looks like there. This image to me is very emotive. It's got a lot of emotion. It's very powerful. And I love the composition. I love the fact that it's backlit with that edge light. And I really appreciate the fact that the subject is not making eye contact.
Yeah.
It's really strong. I'm just kind of playing with crop.
It goes from it's so interesting. The lack of eye contact takes this from a portrait to editorial or photojournalistic, right? Because it could be, could be very much, this guy had no idea his photo was being taken. So that makes it more of street photography or photojournalism. If he's making eye contact, then it's a portrait, right? For the most part.
Right. And something I think that is interesting in this particular subject, and I think it's how each individual interprets the assignment, is that to me, this image is not so inspirational as it is moodful, right? It makes me think. But it's inspirational to get out and photograph for Armando. So there's two sides, maybe we didn't make it clear, or maybe this is just how everybody wants to interpret it, but is this image inspiring to somebody?
True.
Or
right.
Does that make sense? I mean, the idea that maybe an editor would come to you and say, hey, Frederick, I want you to go out, I want you to photograph the guys, and I want you to bring me back a bunch of inspirational imagery. How do we interpret that?
How do you interpret that? Yeah. What is inspiring about this? And it could be in the caption, right? Or it could be in the accompanying story where, this one, who knows, right? This one gentleman separates from the pack because he's inspired to go do something, amazing, where everyone else was scared, or, who knows,
And I say that in a creative sense because, somebody may look at this and see this man away from the crowd, and that's inspiring them for independence. He's doing his own thing. Like Amy's going on this walk by herself. There's this solo element. So it'd be interesting to hear, how everybody kind of sees that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Very cool. And I love Armando, the border treatment on this too.
Armando should be putting together a collection of all of his people photos, a book or something. He's got a lot.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. That would be awesome. All right. Moving right along. Our next up is Joshua Sommerfeld. Let's see what he says. Joshua says, I know, a spider from Joshua, not original, I grant you, but these animals truly are my inspiration. I choose my subjects very deliberately, and I put a lot of care into how I represent them. I walk through life every day misunderstood. People see me through their preconceptions, aren't particularly interested in challenging them. These animals face the same thing, so I feel the need to stick up for them, and it actually hurts when people make disrespectful comments about them, especially in my photos. I see them for what they are, and they inspire me to help people challenge their irrational fears and learn more about / appreciate the misunderstood. All right. Let's take a look.
Very cool.
Yeah, that sentiment applies to a lot of stuff, not just misunderstood animals like this, right? I mean, it's like being empathetic to other humans and lifestyles and, races and everything. If you look at things through your own myopia, there's another word for you.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I mean, dude, that's a whole conversation right there. And I appreciate that Joshua was saying that, because it's very symbolic. I think that every human has baggage, and every human has this misunderstood element, and every human puts forth a face that's different than what we all see if we didn't meet them like in that public space, right? Like even my art, my pottery, as you and I talked about a little bit, the weird shit that I make, like there's a reason it's weird, you know. So I can relate to that. So I think it's very cool. Joshua's photography is impeccable. The quality of this image is fantastic. And although this image doesn't inspire me, I appreciate and respect the fact that it inspires Joshua. I do love seeing the small world this way, though. I would never get to see this otherwise. So I appreciate it.
I do. Yeah. Likewise. Yeah, and just to piggyback on top of what he was saying, I wonder, maybe this is a dialogue for our member mixers, because it feels like a longer conversation. But yeah, I've heard Joshua, talk about how people misunderstand this kind of macro micro world, and he's sort of championing to have people give people a better understanding of this world. I totally agree with that and respect that. And I also wonder the biology of all this, right? So if you look at an animal like this, or any other thing that some people find frightening, I don't think that's a prejudice, right? I think that some of that is biological and self-preservational. Like you should be afraid of some things and you are afraid of them not because of, biases or something, but for self-preservational reasons. I think not that this spider will kill you, but I think some of the arachnophobia that some people have stems from the fear that some of them will kill you. And they don't know enough about this world to make the determination that this one won't, right? You shouldn't be afraid of this one, but the one that looks similar to it will harm you, right? It's like I said, it's a deeper conversation.
I don't know. Now I can tell you that I've read some studies where they've taken, very, very small children, and they've exposed them to things like big dogs and a snake, or a big spider, or a goose, and they're on average more afraid of the snake every single time and the spider every single time, but not the giant dog. And I think what you said, some of that is ingrained. So I guess kind of what we're getting at is it's a learned response to overcome the fear of a thing.
Yes.
And it's something that I appreciate, to look at a thing like a spider like this that is inherently scary for most people, and to see the beauty in it because Joshua takes the effort to make them look beautiful and bring them out. So I completely admire that, and it's a lot of work, and it's really hard.
Yep. Yeah, it's effort, right? It takes energy, like you said. It takes energy to put the effort forth to understand this world, right? Just if you're not going to apply any energy to it and just walk by, then you're just like, I'm scared of those things, I don't want them around me, whatever. Right. But I'll tell you, as a credit to Joshua Sommerfeld and his work in this area, there was a spider in my house the other day. Normally that spider would have been gone, right? I would have destroyed it either with a broom or with some Raid or something. And specifically because of Joshua Sommerfeld, I did not kill that spider. I scooped that spider up and set him free, or her, them free outside the house, right? And now they're off doing whatever they're going to do. But because I have a better understanding of that world and a better, I guess, increased empathy for that world. And that's all I would argue most of that is due to Joshua and this kind of work.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that it's fair to say that everything and everyone is misunderstood, to some extent, and we need to factor that into how we look at everything.
Absolutely.
To speak to the image, Joshua, I love the image. I think that you did an impeccable job preparing this image. I know the amount of work that you put into these things. Knowing that this work is so good, but I do want to add, I really wish that in some of these images that the spider was sharp all the way through. I think that would add another element or another level of quality to this, because I understand how hard macro is. And I get it, right?
Yeah.
But like those front legs, I just wish that they were sharp all the way through. I can get by with the back legs not being in focus because they're behind, and that's cool. But I just wish that those two front legs, I think it's probably just the two front legs, were in focus. I just wish they were a little sharper. So
love it. What a deep conversation, though. Yeah. So.
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. That's the diversity of work inside the TWiP Pro community. So thank you all for sharing all of these fantastic images. I think Joshua. No, you are not the last one. Kieran Sweeney is the last one. Or no, sorry, Dwayne Murphy.
No, Dwayne.
Yeah, sorry. Almost skipped over that one. Thank you all.
My buddy Dwayne.
Oh, let me go back. What did Dwayne say? He said the Matsumoto Castle in Matsumoto City, Japan during cherry blossom season. Look at that.
Yes.
I want to live there.
And I'm just going to say, Dwayne, why didn't you share the one with Shaggy in the photo? That would have been one. Shaggy's his wife, by the way.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah, Shaggy's Japanese. Shaggy's his wife. They're amazing. He's like 6'2" and she's like 4'2" or 4 foot. I don't know. There, she's short. She's a sweetheart. But like, there's this amazing photo of her in a kimono and everything, standing, I think, at one point. But Dwayne, great image. I love this image. I don't know if it's Mighty Network. We know that sometimes the Mighty Network will compress colors and stuff. So I kind of wish this had a little bit more saturation. It looks like a night shot, so maybe the colors were really muted. So that's hard to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, Frederick, what do you think about that path in the foreground? I'm kind of thinking that I kind of wish the path wasn't there, but then the tree wouldn't be in the ground. So I'm kind of struggling with.
Well, I was looking at that path, and it kind of curves a little bit up on the bottom here. So I'm wondering, is that lens distortion, or did it actually curve? But it's at the very least is making me look at that curve. So, and then this tree on the right side here, I think I would just lose that, because our hero is the Matsumoto Castle here and vignetted by the trees. So I think I would maybe crop down a little bit, lose some of the sidewalk and that tree for sure. I like this tree because it gives the context of the whole story of the Cherry Blossom Festival. But cropping this a little bit to bring my attention more to the castle. And if it were possible, even scooch to the right a little bit to get this more to fill the space in that vignette area. And then, like you said, like if this was taken at night, then you have sort of limited options in terms of these cherry blossoms being brighter. But if possible, I would have liked to see those pop out a little bit more to sell the story of the Cherry Blossom Festival. I love the lighting on the castle in the background. You know, it looks very like regal and inviting back there. And I love the fact that this path feels like it might somehow lead to an entrance over here. But yeah, just to crop down a little bit to lose some of this space on the right and bring me more into the image would increase the strength, I think.
Right. No, and you know, I agree with everything you said, and getting a chance to kind of look at it. I like the tree on the left. I would burn down the dirt foreground right there in front of the path closest to us. I would burn that down a little bit. And then whatever that little flat is in front of the castle, you know, that little flat wall with looks like there's some cherry blossom trees there, or maybe something.
This thing?
Maybe bring the tone down on that just ever so slightly. But other than that, this is great. I think this is hanging in his house.
Oh, cool.
I can't remember.
So Dwayne, you gotta come to the next mixer so I can practice my Japanese on you.
He would love that. Yeah, he would love that. Yeah, if Shaggy's there, you know, you can have good Japanese and then you can have bad Japanese.
I want the bad Japanese. That's closer to where I am.
Yeah. But Dwayne, definitely share the picture with Shaggy in it. I think that's such an amazing photograph that you took of her. back there. So
love it. Cool. And Dwayne, welcome to the community, man. It's good to have you.
Yeah, I'm glad he's here.
All right, so let's wrap up here. Final thoughts? Any favorites out of all these?
Man, yeah. So I'm gonna go with Jim Peters because I think it's universally inspirational. I think that there's the content of that image is easily inspirational. I think I could put that on a magazine cover, Inspiration Weekly, and it's gonna, there's so many elements in there that speak universally. I realize some of the other ones are more personal. But I love them all, and I think everybody did a great job. This one really speaks to me.
Love it. All right, yeah. I'll co-sign that opinion.
Nice.
Very cool. All right, so that was critique number 169, Inspiration, coming up next on October 4th, Monday, October 4th, 2 weeks from today, we'll be recording critique number 170, and that topic will be Troy Miller.
Okay, don't hate me, guys, but I ran this by Frederick, and he agreed, so it's a little challenging. So I'm not. So when we do the critique, Frederick can't say, "Well, this was all Troy."
I'm going to say that anyway.
Yeah, I know. So I thought let's do something a little bit more specific, and I thought, what about creating an album cover of whatever you want, like a song, an artist, could be a makeup artist, could be a make-believe, it could be a fantasy, but a legitimate album cover, something square.
Yep.
With
Square.
Some cool
Square
on it. Something that maybe relates to the song or relates to the band somehow, like something like whatever you want to do.
So the sky's the limit on that, because an album cover can be literally anything, right? So do you want to put any parameters around there? Like it must be photographic, or does it have to be static? Because we're in 2021, there's no such thing as albums for the most part anymore. So is this album cover concept a square representation of that body of work, and it could be animated or a cinematograph, or should we stick to, because that's what I want to do, right?
Let's see. I don't know that we have an easy way to look at a cinematograph. Do we?
Yeah,
no, let's not go there.
You want to go there? Okay.
That might get complicated. I think it's that for some albums and LPs are still very popular. So yes, they're still very much out there, and but it is kind of a throwback to this idea. And whether we see them on album covers or not, I mean, if you go through Apple Music or Spotify or whatever, there's always album art. There's always art. And
maybe that's it. Album art. That's it.
Yeah. Album art. Something creative that you might see on an album cover. Whatever. Yeah, something in that genre.
I like it. All right, that's good. That's something that we haven't done before, so it's brand new. And that I think that should be lighting up some synapses on what the possibilities are, because you could look at this from the standpoint of, I'm just going to create something, it's going to be amazing, or you could dive into it a little bit, which we would encourage you to do, and think about like what's your favorite genre of music, and within that genre, what's a song that inspires you, and then create something to do homage to that particular song. That'd be interesting. I know, Troy, yours would be like, Willie Nelson or something, or
no, absolutely not.
What live from the Folsom prison? Who's that? Johnny Cash.
I like Johnny Cash.
Hello, I'm Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see it. Let's see what you got, people. Let's see some album art coming out of you folks. This should be interesting. I mean, I know within the community, within TWiP Pro, you can upload and embed or share an animated GIF. It will accept that, though my experience with animated GIFs and Mighty Networks has been sluggy. Like you upload one and it doesn't play at the frame rate that you think it might play at. It's been kind of spotty. So if you want to go in that direction, you can try it. But, like Troy says, maybe consider just, doing something that you'd find in Tower Records back in the day, going through albums, like, oh, boom, and that's our shot.
Hey, impress the judges. If you do a cinematograph, you're going to impress Frederick. If you do something in black and white with a sloppy border, infrared. That guy. Or
Something that is all of that stuff together.
An animated infrared.
Yeah. Or, Mark Charette's going to show up with a 360 something or other. That's going to be amazing. So should be interesting. Can't wait.
Nice.
All right. So yeah, we'll record that critique on what did I say? The 4th of October? Yeah, October 4th. Monday, October 4th, we'll record that. So get those submitted as soon as you can. And keep an eye out in the community for an announcement on a new kind of critique that we're going to do. I think we finally settled on something that may be beneficial for everyone. And I think you guys will get a huge kick out of what the direction we're taking is.
Yeah, something fun.
Yep. All right, Troy Miller, any final words? By the way, have you been shooting any 360 stuff? I know you have a 360 camera now. Any 360 shots?
I've been experimenting with it. I haven't actually shot anything yet. So I'm not ready, but I'm learning it. I got to learn the camera. I just haven't had time.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a whole new world, isn't it? I mean, it's completely
it's different.
But it's fun. It's fun. All right, cool. We'll leave it right there. Thank you, folks, for sticking with us and watching this episode. And we will see you in the next one. If you're a TWiP Pro member, we'll see you in the community or at our weekly member mixer. All right, folks, take care. This is TWiP. This episode was sponsored by MPB, the world's largest online platform for used photo and video kit. Visit mpb.com.